Okay, Gillian, give us your perspective on this issue of knowing our worth in work.
Goodness, I'm not even sure I'm worthy to be here, actually, after listening to some of those. I've had people who've set up, well, 2 of you have fought publicly. 3 of you, actually, have fought publicly for equal pay and rights to be treated fairly at work. And I've had my own personal experience, and I didn't actually think about it, so I was just listening to your stories of how I did get a settlement, and I did negotiate very hard and very satisfactorily, but it didn't help anyone else. And actually what you did, even though you were kind of forced to in some cases, because it is the worst thing I think that can happen, particularly if you've got to a senior level, it's that question mark that people will be asking. So I'm down here as a Conservative MP, but... Oh, okay. There's not many people ask that. Is it on?
It is on.
Is it on? Shall I? I'll just speak louder anyway. Okay, I can do that. I've had this happen to me, but I've got much more kind of personal experience of the stories that you have told as opposed to Joe's in a way. Because even though I'm down here as an MP, I am an MP. I've been an MP for 18 months. But actually, I've spent nearly 30 years in the world of business. So most of my experience is out in the real world. And actually, it's a great pleasure to get a break from Brexit at the moment, because that's, that's what I'm doing next on some news channel or other, talking through the deal, because I think I'm one of the few that actually understands it, having spent all that time in the real world. But so I think, what you've done is actually quite a game changer, actually. And I think, the Women in Work APPG, the work that I do with Jess Phillips, who's the other co-chair, I think we need to put more of a focus on this, because we've started to discuss things like the use of gagging orders or the use of compromise agreements, actually, to basically pay the money and go basically quietly, which I've done, and actually lots of women I know have done. It's also just struck me how many people this must be happening to, because lots of really brilliant professional women who've reached senior positions, which is the path that we were all on, have had this happen to them. And not many people know about it or even talk about it. So I think we should use this opportunity now to do something different. And I know Jess has done some Freedom of Information Acts, even requests to even find out how many have been used in Parliament, which there weren't all that many, but still I think it's something that we can raise more awareness of, because they are often used to keep quiet. And of course then it doesn't take any further, really. I go away, I go on holiday and, pick myself up, dust myself down, which it says it takes a year or so, at least, because it's very unfair and unjust, and it's a very isolating journey, I think you said, Sam, as well. So in terms of the political point, as Joe said, there's so many underlying factors. It's almost like trying to eat an elephant, but I think the Women's Equality Party has been very useful at focusing, the list of to-dos, really, and you kind of summarise them. And there is so much to do on so many fronts. There is progress, but it's so slow. And I suppose it will to some extent, that's part of the nature of it. But, we do need to really, I think, work much more collaboratively together, all of us, to make sure that we get the real points across, and probably prioritise a little as well. I'm kind of, still mostly a business person and not much of a politician, as you'll probably find if you hear me talking about most things. But we do need to prioritise, because sometimes this is such a long list, and it's such a wide approach that it's easy to get ignored or to get picked off. So I think that's something else as well for us to think about, how we just really prioritise and knock down some of these things that have been for a long time, whether it's shared parental leave, whether it's even the corporate culture, whether it's more transparency around when these things are happening, coincidentally to women after they're 40, pretty much in the business world. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know what happens, but we become irritating at that point. Maybe it's because we know more, I don't know, but it certainly is a factor. So I think that's probably what we need to do, and I think Fawcett can probably help us with that, Sam, because you kind of, you know, bring us all together. I mean, there's so many different groups trying to address it as well. That's often what I think, you know, again, we've got so many different voices that it's easier to ignore different voices than it is to ignore one strong voice. And I think that's what we need to do, and what we need to do. And you know, certainly I look forward to learning from Jo. She's so much more ahead of me in terms of understanding politics. She's been in politics for 100 years, but a long time. She's done proper jobs. She's done the, you know, the Women's Inequalities Minister. She's done the job. So, you know, I think, and you know how it works a lot better than I do as well. But, you know, I do look forward to hearing more. However, I am in a good position because I am now in Parliament. I am now a Conservative. They're in government at the moment, and I am brave enough to speak as well. You know, the great thing about coming to politics when you're 50 is, you know, you've not really got the same thing to prove as when you're 30. And, you know, and I am. That's why, you know, we got on from the moment. I'm very happy to take on issues. I'm very happy to listen and understand different perspectives. I always say, even actually talking about this, but, you know, growing up in just outside Liverpool, it's actually the most Labour town in the whole country. And all my family support Labour pretty much. And they all voted to leave. I was the only one who voted to remain. So I've never really had anyone agree with me. So I'm very used to, I'm very used to arguing. The only Conservative in Knowsley. I think I've got an uncle who's once voted Conservative. It's a big family, but that's, you know. So I think it's. Thank you for inviting me, and you know, I think we've just got loads more work to do, but we need a better plan, probably.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much, Gillian.
Thank you.